Pleased to be joined by Dave Padden, senior editor at Newsmax magazine. Pretty nice cover this month with Dr. Ben Carson there, David.
We're proud of that one. He's a fascinating figure on the American scene, that's for sure.
We know on subsequent Newsmax programs we'll be hearing from Dr. Carson. Yeah. Right now we want to talk about a story that is incredibly dismaying, and that is the situation in Iraq. It seems to be tumbling into anarchy, everything out of control. 100 U.S. troops ordered now to protect that multi-billion-dollar embassy in the green zone of Baghdad, reports of mass executions of Iraqi soldiers, and the continued conquest of cities by ISIS forces. Here to break down the latest from an intelligence perspective, Pete Hoekstra, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, joining us this morning from The Hague in the Netherlands. Pete, we welcome you to America's Forum.
Great to be with you, JD. Good morning.
And we should also point out that joining us from Montana, retired United States Army Major General Paul Vallely getting in place there. General, it is great to have you along this morning as well.
Thank you, JD.
Now, Pete, let's begin with you. You're there at The Hague. What have you heard about the latest situation in Iraq?
Well, I've heard much of the same that you've heard. You know, the situation in Iraq is it's tumbling out of control. The really, you know, you and I talked about a number of the things, the implications that this would have moving forward. I think looking back, one of the things that we've picked up over the weekend is that America and the West was surprised by the ability of ISIS to move so quickly and to be so disruptive and have the kind of success in Iraq that it's having. So we're going to have to go back and do another one of these after action reviews and see how from an intelligence standpoint did we get this so wrong and how were we caught so off guard.
So essentially, Pete, you are telling us this morning this is an intelligence failure on the part of the administration and the analysis of what's been coming down the pike.
Yeah, I would really think that I would say that. Because, you know, we've known and expected that the turmoil in Syria would spill over into other parts of the region. And so you would have thought that we would have been looking at this very, very closely and had as many eyes on the ground as possible. Remember, at one time, we had a pretty good intelligence network in Iraq. Maybe that thing has totally disintegrated and there's nothing left. But to be caught by surprise in an area where we were just fighting a war less than 10 years ago and not have the intelligence or the foresight, this is an analysis issue, that we didn't have the people who could analyze the situation and say, hey guys, Obama administration, get ready. ISIS is going to, move into Iraq, and they're going to be able to move fairly quickly. Remember, I think we have the largest embassy in the world in Baghdad, and not to be able to see this coming is rather shocking.
Well, let's move from the intelligence failure to what's going on militarily. General Paul Vallely, does Baghdad 2014 remind you of Saigon 1975?
Well, it certainly does, and also we could have another Benghazi going on here. Let me update you. I talked to our Middle East liaison group last night in depth on some more recent intelligence. And as you know, Colonel Najjar is my Middle East liaison. He primarily works out of Turkey, and he's the one that went into Syria with me last year. But what's happening is that they're liaisoning now through Jordan. And the word is that the Sunnis will negotiate to a degree if, number one, Maliki steps down and the United States engages the Sunnis directly through the liaison. And they'll do nothing until that is done. And when they see Iran coming in to support Maliki, that's a no-starter with the Sunnis and with ISIS. Now, their mission is the Levant. That is to obliterate all the borders over there so that they have a caliphate state. And when you look at the chessboard over there, you see that Jordan is very vulnerable next to go down unless we come in with air power immediately with air-ground controllers on the ground. It's the only way we're going to stave off the march to Baghdad at this point in time. And we have people, as I understand, special ops guys that can do the targeting on the ground and help not only our forces, but the Iraqi helicopter and limited air force that they have.
So, gentlemen, good morning. David Patton here. I'd like to start with the general, and then maybe Congressman Hoekstra would also like to chime in. Talking about timing, talking about urgency. We've seen situations in the past when President Obama tends to really ruminate over these decisions. Do we go in, do we not? And he has been talking about sort of deliberating again. How concerned are you that we're going to do what we have to do in time to turn the momentum before those insurgents actually get to Baghdad?
Well, great question, and as Pete knows, JD, that this administration is always behind the eight ball when it comes to doing forward thinking and strategies. They're just incapable of it, and I hopefully I would hope that we will not be late to the game here. Particularly, number one, we got to protect and secure some 4,000, 4,500. Pete, I'm not sure how many we have on the ground of Americans there now, but certainly they're in the thousands. They'll probably be evacuated, I guess, to Kuwait, some other places. But when you do covert operations, you don't discuss the options, you execute them. And this administration seems incapable of executing timely operations in the event of a force over there that's going to march on Baghdad continually in the next 48 hours to try to gain momentum. They've already taken down far outside of Mosul. Now the Kurds are securing the northeast section of Iraq at this point in time, so that's not really the worry. They'll take care of themselves. The critical question is, what are we going to do about Baghdad?
And so, Pete, here it is. You hear the general say that Baghdad 2014 looks a lot like Saigon 1975. In terms of priorities in your mind, as former chairman of the Intelligence Committee, how would you prioritize what the American nation is facing today with what's going on in Iraq?
Well, there's all kinds of issues going on. Number one, as the general pointed out, we need to make sure that we do everything possible. We protect Jordan. We can protect King Abdullah. This thing cannot continue to spiral out of control and threaten the Jordanian kingdom. That is absolutely unacceptable, which means we're going to have to do something in Iraq. This president, on Friday said, well, I've got to consider the options moving through the weekend. I'm afraid we're going to be a day late and $1 short as to what we're going to be able to do there. He's also saying we're not going to really put any boots on the ground, or military action is going to be very, very limited. We're looking to Iran to provide the backbone to the Iraqi army and coordinate and cooperate with us. I mean, we're in a really, really weak situation. This president has given us very, very few options. And I'm not sure how we're going to get out of this. And then it is about Jordan. Europe is very concerned about the folks who are fighting in Syria and now fighting in Iraq coming back to Europe. I think the Spaniards just arrested 8 ISIS recruiters in Spain. They're very concerned about a spike in oil prices, about what that's going to do to the fragile economy here in Europe. There are no good scenarios coming out of this, with the U.S. providing no leadership in this situation at all.
So,
well, and also, Pete, JD, you don't see the Arab coalition, the Arab Council taking any action. What's Turkey doing? What's Saudi Arabia doing? It is a Sunni Shia situation, but with the objective of Iran to be the hegemonic power of the Middle East, you'd think these other powers would be taking steps in order to offset any of the gains of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. It's just puzzling to me that there's not more responsibility laid on neighboring countries over there to do anything. But, that's part of forward strategy, again, that this administration should be on top of. As you say, they're always late to the ball game, and this creates tremendous chaos.
But the Middle East and Europe, they're used to American leadership, and they need American leadership, and lacking American leadership, they just don't know what to do.
So,
correct.
So, gentlemen, jumping in there, how concerned are you that if the United States, if the Obama administration starts to rely on actually working with Iran to try to find some kind of a settlement, do some kind of negotiations, that there could be blowback even on negotiations over Iran's nukes?
It got to be a quick answer. We got about 30 seconds left. 15 seconds for you both. Pete, let's start with you.
Of course, there will be a blowback. We will have less leverage than ever.
General, your final word on this.
Yeah, we don't have any leverage at all right now unless we can exercise a military option to protect the Americans and save Baghdad and think about a new forward strategy that will be effective.
Very good. Pete Hoekstra checking in from The Hague, Major General Paul Vallely from Montana, both via Skype. We appreciate your input this morning. And of course, Dave Patton, always here from Newsmax Magazine. We thank you for the questions as well. Questions and comments we welcome. If you've got something to say, we'd love to hear from you via Twitter at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. There's also email and Facebook. We're coming right back.